Britain in the 1950s asked its car industry to rebuild a shattered economy on roads still recovering from war, using factories that were forced to shift from building tanks and aircraft back to building family sedans and sports cars. Some of these machines became genuine icons of global design. Most of them simply did the job with varying degrees of success, mechanical charm, or outright frustration. Stay for number 1. A car designed out of absolute desperation during a global oil shortage that ended up changing every single vehicle you see on the road today. This is the countdown. Number 10. Rover P4. Solid, comfortable, and entirely unbothered by the concept of high-speed performance. The Rover P4 arrived right at the tail end of 1949 and spent the entire next decade serving as a backbone of Britain's respectable middle class. Built by the Rover Company, it earned the nickname Auntie because it possessed a dignified, somewhat old-fashioned appearance and an utterly dependable character that appealed to people who found flashing styling vulgar. Under the hood, early models relied on quiet six-cylinder engines ranging from 2.1 to 2.6 liters, which prioritized smooth, low-end torque over high RPM horsepower. Rather than chasing outright speed records, the P4 was built for silent, effortless driving. Inside, the cabin was a cocoon of heavy leather seats, thick polished wood trim, and excellent visibility that created an atmosphere resembling a traditional gentleman's club on wheels. The P4's heavy separate chassis construction, a direct carryover from pre-war engineering traditions, gave it a significantly higher curb weight than the modern unibody cars that were starting to appear from competitors. This weight penalty directly hurt acceleration and fuel economy, a drawback that contemporary trade testers noted as increasingly difficult to justify as the 1950s progressed and fuel costs rose. It was a machine engineered for a Britain that hadn't quite finished with post-war rationing. By the time those restrictions dropped, the P4's thirsty, heavy nature became a clear commercial liability, yet its impeccable build quality kept it alive in the hearts of doctors, lawyers, and rural bank managers who wanted luxury without the ostentatious look of Jaguar. Number 9. MGA. Sleek, aerodynamic, and built specifically because the old way of doing things had hit a dead end. The MGA arrived in 1955 because Milgram realized that their traditional, upright T-Series sports cars looked like pre-war relics that could no longer compete in the crucial American market. Power came from a lively 1.5-liter B-Series four-cylinder engine, which was later enlarged to give the car more muscle. The lightweight frame, low-slung bucket seats, and sharp rack and pinion steering provided a pure, unvarnished driving experience. Inside, the dashboard was a simple sheet of metal with basic gauges, keeping the driver's focus entirely on the road ahead. The MGA's flowing, beautiful sheet metal was so radically different from the old square-rig Milgram models that the company's management initially rejected the prototype, fearing traditional buyers would hate it. They were completely wrong, as the car became an absolute sensation overseas, with more than 90% of total production shipped out of Britain, the vast majority landing in the United States. However, that gorgeous, low front end left so little room under the hood that mechanics routinely complained about basic maintenance tasks, as changing the oil filter or adjusting the twin carburetors required turning your fingers into pretzels. It was a global export triumph built by a company that had to be dragged kicking and screaming into the modern world. Number 8. Triumph TR2. Rugged, loud, and engineered to provide maximum speed for the minimum amount of money, Triumph broke into the highly competitive post-war sports car market in 1953 with the launch of the TR2, aiming a direct shot at MG's dominance with a car that was built to handle raw abuse. Its heavy-duty 2.0-liter four-cylinder engine was actually derived from a tractor motor, but it produced surprisingly lively performance that could push the little roadster to a genuine 105 miles per hour. The cabin was utterly basic, offering simple vinyl seats and clear, no-nonsense instruments designed for enthusiasts who cared about lap times rather than leather padding. To save money during development, Triumph designed the TR2 with a flat, squared-off rear end that used off-the-shelf components from standard Triumph's cheap sedan lineup. This cut production cost dramatically, but the short wheelbase and stiff rear suspension meant that on uneven, wet tarmac, the back end of the car became incredibly unpredictable. Drivers quickly discovered that while it was tough enough to survive grueling international endurance rallies, it required constant steering corrections just to stay in a straight line on a typical rain-slick British road. It was an incredibly fast machine that gave buyers genuine performance, provided it had the muscle and bravery to keep it on the asphalt. Number 7. Ford Anglia 100E. Basic, cheap, and completely devoid of any mechanical pretense. Not every car that left a mark on history needed a high top speed or racing pedigree. The Ford Anglia 100E, introduced in 1953, became the tool that put post-war British families on wheels. It was powered by an ancient, side-valve 1.2-liter four-cylinder engine that offered modest acceleration, but was so simple that any owner with a basic wrench could maintain it in their driveway. Inside, the Anglia offered zero luxuries, just simple cloth seats, basic controls, and exactly enough room for a working-class family of four. While the 100E used a modern, advanced unibody shell that made it light and rigid, Ford decided to save money by retaining an incredibly old-fashioned 3-speed manual transmission and vacuum-operated windshield wipers. Because the wipers were powered by engine vacuum rather than an electric motor, they would slow down to a complete crawl whenever the driver stepped hard on the gas pedal to climb a hill in a heavy rainstorm. It was a vehicle built to an incredibly tight price point, forcing drivers to choose between accelerating up an incline or actually seeing the road in front of them. Despite this glaring quirk, it sold by the hundreds of thousands because it was affordable to buy and refused to die. Number 6. Austin Healey 100. Brutal, beautiful, and possessing an exhaust note that could wake the dead, the Austin Healey 100 was born in 1953 from a celebrated deal between custom builder Donald Healey and the massive Austin Motor Company, creating a high-performance sports car designed to dominate American highways. Under the long hood sat a massive 2.6-liter four-cylinder engine that produced immense low-end torque, giving the car effortless acceleration without needing constant gear changes. The cockpit was tight and purposeful, featuring a distinctive lay-down windshield that could be folded flat against the hood to reduce wind resistance during high-speed runs. The massive four-cylinder engine used in the Austin Healey 100 was originally engineered to power a heavy Austin commercial truck. While this gave the car fantastic pulling power, it also meant the engine block was incredibly heavy and radiated an immense amount of heat directly through the firewall. On long summer drives, the passenger footwell would become so intensely hot that owners reported their shoes literally melting during extended road trips. It was a gorgeous, aggressive machine that captured the absolute romance of 1950s open-top motoring, as long as you didn't mind your legs being roasted by a truck engine. Number 5. Aston Martin DB2. Expensive, elegant, and engineered to cross European borders at speeds that regular drivers could only dream of, the DB2 was introduced in 1950 under the new ownership of industrialist David Brown, making it the machine that laid the groundwork for the legendary lineage of British Grand Tourers. At its heart was a highly sophisticated 2.6-liter twin-overhead cam straight-six engine that had been designed by W.O. Bentley. It gave the DB2 incredible high-speed stamina for its era. The interior was a masterpiece of old-world British craftsmanship, featuring hand-stitched leather upholstery, rich wool carpets, and a tailored cabin built for high society travel. The sophisticated twin-cam engine was so advanced and had such tight tolerances that typical British mechanics of the early 1950s had absolutely no idea how to service it. If an owner took a DB2 to a local garage for a routine tune-up, the mechanics would frequently throw their hands up in confusion or accidentally ruin the delicate valve timing. This meant that owning a DB2 required shipping the car back to the factory or hiring a specialized technician just to keep it running properly. It achieved legendary status on tracks like Le Mans, but it was a vehicle that demanded a bank account and a level of technical patience that very few regular motorists possessed. Number 4. Land Rover Series I. Primitive, unyielding, and completely unstoppable, the Land Rover Series I was launched in 1948 as a temporary, stopgap measure to keep the Rover Company alive while steel was rationed, but it spent the 1950s morphing into a global phenomenon. It utilized a basic four-cylinder engine bolted into a heavy steel ladder chassis. Because steel was so hard to get after the war, the body panels were constructed from a stockpile of surplus aircraft aluminum, which had the unintended benefit of making the vehicle light and completely immune to rust. Inside, there were no carpets, no heaters, and no sound deadening, just bare metal and utilitarian controls. The Series I was originally intended to be sold exclusively to farmers as a motorized substitute for a tractor, which is why the prototype featured a steering wheel mounted directly in the center of the cabin so the driver could look back at agricultural plows. While production models got a normal side-mounted steering wheel, the suspension was kept so incredibly stiff for field work that driving it at 40 miles per hour on a paved road felt like being trapped inside a runaway washing machine. It was utterly miserable as an everyday road vehicle, yet its legendary mechanical toughness allowed it to conquer the African bush, the Australian outback, and global military campaigns, creating an entire market for four-wheel drive utility vehicles. Number 3. Jaguar XK120. Drop-dead gorgeous, insanely fast, and built with a price tag that made competing European manufacturers look like they were robbing their customers, the Jaguar XK120 shook the global automotive hierarchy to its core upon arrival, becoming the fastest production car in the world. The centerpiece was a revolutionary 3.4-liter twin-overhead cam straight-six engine, which produced 160 horsepower and could push the aerodynamic body past 120 miles per hour. The cockpit was wrapped in premium leather and polished wood, offering an aristocratic aesthetic that matched its incredible performance. While the engine and body were decades ahead of their time, the XK120 was launched with an ancient, slow-shifting manual transmission that featured an incredibly heavy clutch and no synchromesh on first gear. This meant that if a driver tried to rush a gear change during spirited driving, the gearbox would emit an ear-splitting grind that completely ruined the car's sophisticated image. Furthermore, the drum brakes were notoriously prone to fading into uselessness after just a few hard stops from high speed. It was an absolute masterpiece of post-war design that looked like the future, but it required an old-school driver with massive physical strength to actually stop and shift it. Number 2. Morris Minor. Unpretentious, deeply loved, and woven directly into the daily lives of millions of ordinary people, the Morris Minor entered production just before the turn of the decade and spent the 1950s cementing itself as a definitive British family car. Designed by the brilliant Alec Isagonis, it used small, highly economical four-cylinder engines that were incredibly cheap to run. What set the Minor apart from other budget cars was its inclusion of sharp rack and pinion steering and an independent front suspension system, which gave this modest little sedan handling characteristics that put expensive sports cars to shame. The Morris Minor was originally designed to be several inches wider than the final production model. Just before the assembly lines were set to run, management panicked about the cost of the extra steel and ordered the design to be narrowed. Rather than redesigning the entire car, engineers literally cut the prototype down the middle and welded it back together, leaving a faint structural seam right down the center of the hood and floor pans. Despite this last-minute corporate surgery, the Minor was an absolute triumph of packaging, becoming the first British vehicle in history to sell over 1 million units because it proved that an affordable car could be genuinely joyful to drive. Number 1. Austin Mini. Desperate, revolutionary, and destined to change the layout of the global automobile forever, the Austin Mini arrived in 1959 at the very end of the decade, born directly out of the Suez Crisis fuel shortage that left Britain facing strict gas rationing. Faced with a national emergency, Alec Isagonis was tasked with creating a tiny car that could carry 4 adults and their luggage while using almost no fuel. His solution was pure genius. He turned the engine sideways, mounted it over the transmission, and pushed all 4 wheels out to the absolute corners of the body. This meant that a staggering 80% of the car's total footprint were preserved entirely for the passengers. Because the Mini was rushed into production to beat competing microcars to the market, the early 1959 model suffered from a massive design flaw where the distributor and ignition system were placed directly behind the front grille. Whenever a driver followed another car down a rain-soaked British road, water would spray through the grille and instantly drown the electrical system, leaving thousands of early buyers stranded in puddles. To make matters worse, the door pockets were specifically sized by Isagonis to fit his favorite brand of dry gin, prioritizing beverage storage over structural waterproofing. Yet, its go-kart handling, incredible space efficiency, and classless appeal turned it into a cultural phenomenon that became the blueprint for every modern front-wheel drive car built today. Looking back today, these 10 vehicles represent far more than vintage chrome, historical horsepower figures, and beautiful styling. They were the physical machines that forced British engineering to adapt, experiment, and compete on a global stage during a pivotal post-war decade. Their mechanical fingerprints can still be traced across the vehicles we drive today, proving that truly great design choices outlive the era that created them. Which of these 10 classics surprised you the most? And do you think the Mini earned its place at the top of the list? Let us know in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, and we will see you in the next deep dive into automotive history.